I will call this meeting to order. Welcome. We are now resume meeting number 34 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Health. Today's meeting is taking place in hybrid format pursuant to standing orders. I would like to remind participants of the following points. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. For those participating by video conference, please click on the microphone icon to activate your mic, and please mute yourself when you are not speaking. At the bottom of the screen, you can select the appropriate channel for interpretation, either floor, English, or French. A reminder that all comments should be addressed through the chair. For members in the room, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand. For members on the Zoom, please use the raise hand function. Clerk and I will manage the speaking order as best we can, and we appreciate your patience and understanding in this regard. Before we begin, I would like to quote a section 20.110 of the House of Commons Procedures and the Practices, which states, in the event of disorder, chair may suspend the meeting until order can be restored, or if the situation is considered to be serious as to prevent the committee from continuing with its work, the meeting may be adjourned. In addition, the chair may, at their discretion, interrupt a member whose observations and questions are repetitive or unrelated to the matter before the committee. If the member in question persists in making repetitive or off-topic comments, the chair can give the floor to another member. If the member refuses to yield the floor and continues talking, the chair may suspend and adjourn the meeting. I would like to thank the clerk, analyst, and the interpreters for being of assistance in difficult circumstances in this committee. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Tuesday, September the 23rd, 2025, the committee shall resume its study of Canada's pharmaceutical sovereignty. Committee suspended its meeting on Tuesday, May 26th during the debate. Therefore, we are resuming this meeting and the debate on the motion of Dr. A. Opson and the amendment moved by Dr. Strauss, which is as follows: that the motion be amended at the end by adding the following. Whereas e-prescription services held the promise of improving prescribed practices as pertains to HIV medicines, that Michael Green, the former and the Chief Executive Officer of Canada Health Infoway, appear before the committee during the study for no less than 2 hours to testify on this role in the implementation and oversight of the Liberal government's failed $300 million prescribed IT program. Did all the honorable members got the motion circulated in both official languages? If not, please raise your hand now. I see that everyone got it. So after reviewing the text of this amendment, it is deemed to be out of scope. Therefore, I rule this amendment to be inadmissible. We will now move back to the main motion on the speaking list. Next, we have MP Blanchard Jonka, followed by MP Major. Please, Mr. Blanchard Jonka, point of order.
Yes, Chair. Are you going to give your reasons for why you found it out of scope?
According to Section 12.10, the motion must be relevant to the motion it seeks to amend. If we look at this motion, just the preamble, but the main text of the motion, but the intent of the motion is that is not related to the topic. So that is why I call this motion
Point of order, Chair.
inadmissible.
I'd like to challenge your ruling.
Okay, the chair is challenged, so now we will have a vote to sustain the chair. The members who want to sustain the chair will be voting yes, and the ones that do not want to sustain will vote no. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ms. Chi,
Yes.
Ms. Harrison,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Rana, Ms. Sidhu,
Yes.
Mr. Sawatsky,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
No.
Mr. Ruff,
No.
Mr. Mazier,
No.
Mr. Strauss,
No.
Mr. Blanchet-Jonca,
No.
Okay, chair is sustained. We will now move back to the main motion. On speaking list, next we have MP Blanchard-Jonca, followed by MP Major. Please go ahead, MP Blanchard-Jonca.
Tout est beau, Monsieur le Président. C'est caduc. Merci beaucoup.
It's all good, Mr. Chair. I don't need to take the floor. Thank you.
We will go to MP Major. Please go ahead. And then Dr. Strauss.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the clarification on those rules. It's great to get everything clarified when we start a meeting. So, I would like to move the following amendment, and that the motion be amended by adding after the words "Public Health Agency of Canada" the following: the Minister of Health. So I think that's pretty straightforward.
Just a minute,
And
please. Can you tell me?
So the words are, there are 4 words. The Minister of Health.
Okay, whereabout?
It was after the words Public Health Agency of Canada. So in other words, it was asking the Minister of Health to attend the meeting.
Okay.
So.
So we have the amendment.
Yeah, and I like to speak some more on that.
Okay,
So-
and we will give Mr. Major the floor. And Mr. Strauss, you are on the speaking list next.
Thank you, Chair. So I can go ahead?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, and I guess this is all coming back down to we need the Minister of Health here to come and explain what is going on. I mean, I really do appreciate this motion. And I think it's very important that any time we have something like a health crisis happening in any province in Canada, I think it's important that the federal health minister have an opinion on that and weigh in on what she's seeing. Because a lot of times she didn't really get a chance to explain themselves. Federal ministers have a tendency, they get accused of being, removed from it, out of touch. I think this is a really easy way for the minister to build some good faith and some trust in our governments and in our healthcare system. I don't think anybody could deny that. And this is really just a chance for her to set this table straight. I would encourage the members to vote in favor of this amendment.
Good. Dr. Strauss, before I take I think there's going to be, everybody is probably seem like in favor, but Dr. Strauss, you have the floor.
Yeah, I thank Mr. Mazier for this important amendment. I'm not sure if I support it yet, so I don't think we can move immediately to adopting it by unanimous consent, because we have to think about all the other times that we've invited the minister here, and in fact we spent a whole meeting debating whether the minister would come on Prescribe IT, and our motion was not allowed to go on unanimous consent at that time. And the Liberals said that they wanted to remove the 2-week timeline to have her appear, but then they adjourned the meeting before, without even, I guess, taking yes for an answer, waiting for our agreement on that point. And then when the Conservative House leader alerted the Canadian public that this had happened, that the Liberals had adjourned the meeting abruptly to protect their health minister from having to come testify at this committee, a member of this committee took to Twitter to call that misinformation and said, we agreed to summon Minister Michelle, but she's never come. And I'll ask the clerk to correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no motion on file to have the minister come. So I guess I would just put that to Dr. Ailson. Is it indeed, in his view, misinformation that they summoned the minister? Because I don't recall seeing the minister all this time. And that, of course, was regarding Prescribe IT. So, and then I suppose if they're now planning on having the minister come to talk about HIV, but not Prescribe IT, but Dr. Elson said they did agree to have her come on Prescribe IT, will they, like, when is she coming to talk about Prescribe IT? So I think that's an important thing to flesh out here, and I invite Dr. Ailson to address it.
Dr. Strauss, well taken. It's up to Dr. Eopson whether he want to respond or not. I'm gonna move on to Mr. Ruff. Ruff, you're next on the line, and Dr. Strauss.
Thank you, Chair. Look, and I respect my colleague MP Strauss's commentary. I think the majority, there's some new members here, they maybe don't understand my background, but I know you do, Chair, from the military. So I just come from a background where I believe in leadership and accountability. So I personally support this amendment to have the minister come here, because it's been my frustration and observation since I've been elected to this esteemed place 6.5 years ago that's where our system is failing Canadians, is when we're not having the ministers being accountable and being responsible for their departments and anything that's ongoing there. And to be fair, there's a former minister even in this room that I actually have a lot of time for that did a lot of good things and was very respectful of the role of the official opposition and keeping all members of Parliament informed. And so I just think that it's an ample opportunity, a good time to, I personally will support Mr. Mazur's amendment here that the minister should appear as well.
Thank you very much, MP Ruff, and welcome to the committee, even though it's for a short while. And we'll go to Dr. Strauss and then Mr. Bailey afterwards. And Dr. Strauss, please go ahead.
Chair, I know many of my colleagues at this table, particularly on the Liberal side, are physicians. I know they work as I do in critical environments. They understand that open lines of communication are really important, that transparency and accountability is really important. So I would think if Dr. Ailson thinks that we did agree already to bring the minister and that it was misinformation that Andrew Scheer was promulgating, I don't know why he wouldn't hesitate to say that now. Because I don't see how the business of the committee can go forward if our very, like, if we can't even agree on what has happened so far regarding summoning the minister, like, and maybe the clerk wants to speak to it, but Dr. Ailson is very talkative on Twitter, saying they agreed to bring the minister. Later, he said they agreed to investigate Prescribe IT, but we saw what happened with my sub-amendment just now. So I actually agree with the last part of his post there. Facts matter. So is the minister coming? Will there be an investigation on Prescribe IT? Will the minister be speaking to Prescribe IT if she comes as part of this amendment? And we just need to know what's...
Mr. Strauss,
Yeah.
To be very respectful to you, I
Yeah.
mean, I would like you to stay on the topic, which is on the HIV. Prescribed IT is not the subject, and it's not under consideration at this point in time. And I would really appreciate that. And floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. But I thought we're talking about the sub-amendment, which is pertaining to the minister coming.
Minister coming.
So we
on
have
the HIV.
We just had all these statements about the ministers already coming from Dr. Ailson on Twitter, and I'm trying to understand. Maybe he can explain to me: is the minister already coming? And if she's already coming, and they've already agreed to it, and they're already on Twitter saying there's going to be an here. 2 weeks ago, Tristan Bach, I don't know who that is, but on Twitter he said, "Are you allowing the investigation? Yes or no?" And Dr. Ailson said, "Yes." So, but they just voted against the investigation. So I'm just terribly confused. Is the minister coming as part of this motion? And when she comes, will
We
it be
do
part
not
of-
have we do not have that vote yet, and after this we'll have a vote, and only
Yeah,
then you
but-
will know
but I
whether
need
we
to
have the
understand what
support of
she's
the.
coming about.
I mean, you know that the majority rules, and if we have the majority supporting that, and we will, and so we cannot hypothetically say yes or no at this point in time.
Can the clerk confirm, as Dr. Elfson said on Twitter, that they've agreed to summon Minister Michelle? Is Minister Michelle coming, or do we, like, I don't know how to vote on this if the minister's already coming. So is the minister already coming, like Dr. Elfson said? And if she's coming, was it to do with prescribed IT? And I guess I'd love to have that sorted out before we vote.
So before I go to Mr. Bailey, if you permit me, if I can go to Mr. A. Olson, please. Okay, thank you. Dr. A. Olson, please go ahead, please.
We're talking about this amendment and only this amendment, and I am in support of Mr. Mazier's amendment.
Okay, I thought he's answering. Mr. Bailey, your floor with you. Okay.
Well, you're going to have to excuse me, Chair. I'm newly elected as an MP, and I'm a little confused. So maybe the clerk can set me straight. Was it agreed to that the health minister was going to come back in May?
Because I wasn't here in May, so
That's
let
why
me
I'm asking.
suspend. If I
Oh,
can
no,
suspend
no,
for a
you
minute,
don't
you
have
want
to
me to?
suspend. I just thought I would ask the clerk in a very polite way. I'm not trying to be combative in any manner.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, can we deal with this because my colleague, Mr. Alson.
Just a minute. Right now, if you can give me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bailey. To your question, there was a study on immigration that was done and concluded in May that you mentioned. Certainly, after the report is put together, Minister of Health, and after the report has been distributed, Minister of Immigration, Minister of Health, and PBO is supposed to come. Okay. That was the thing. Okay. Mr. Strauss, you are next on the list. I have Mr. Bailey right now.
Thank you, Chair, for the clarification, and I ask it through you to the clerk. How I can just understand this better. Can I ask the clerk through a form of an email, or can I ask her directly the dates that we agreed to these?
You can write it to me as a chair.
Through the chair,
and
right?
I will
Yeah.
make sure that you get the exact information that you are looking for, and I will provide that to you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go to Dr. Strauss, please, if Mr. Bailey is done. Yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting to me. So we've already finished the study, and we've already agreed to have the Minister of Health come. So
On immigration
yeah.
study.
So like, shouldn't we do that first? Like, I guess why are we? It seems like we're putting the cart before the horse here to invite the minister to come on a study we haven't even done, when we've already invited the minister to come on a study we have done that we haven't finished. And I guess, and perhaps this bears more on the motion rather than the amendment. But like, why are we spending a second meeting on a new study proposal when we haven't even finished these three, and we have this outstanding invitation to the minister, and now we're sending another invitation to the minister? Like, this is.
I would ask Mr. You want to respond to that because this is your motion because you want the minister to come, amendment to the motion. You want the minister to come. So if you can respond to Mr. Strauss, otherwise you don't need to, right?
Well, I think for clarification, obviously, Mr. Strauss still has some questions around it, and I guess all he's looking for is an answer. Sounds like we have, and it's all circling around Mr. Elfson's comments on Twitter. Like, I mean, he's saying it's misinformation, and yet the minister is. We didn't know the minister was coming, and that's why I put the amendment in. And now we find out, all of a sudden, the minister's coming. So, I guess what is it? Is it clear? And is she coming to committee soon? And what's the date? And what is it about?
Mr. A. Opson, please go ahead.
Again, we're talking about the motion at hand, and we're talking about the amendment at hand. I think it is off topic to be talking about anything regarding other studies in this. This is a motion from Mr. Mazier, which myself and my members have already indicated we are planning to support. And I respectfully ask the members to please stop this delaying of a very important study in the midst of a public health emergency where people in Manitoba and many other parts of Canada are dying.
Honorable members, I want you to focus strictly to the motion, to the amendment to the motion, and not all these Twitters, Facebooks, because that means nothing, right? So let's focus on this right now. And if there are no further speakers, I would take the vote. Clerk, Mr. Strauss.
Yeah, I guess it's really important when we have proceedings of this committee. So I say things here at this committee. I only say things that I believe are true.
Point of order. The chair called the vote.
No, I asked
Did
if
you not?
there is a list. Okay. Sorry,
man.
Mr.
My mistake.
Dr.
Seems like
Strauss.
some misinformation. I understand that you don't want to talk about social media. I wish we didn't have to talk about social media. But when a member of the committee is going on social media and saying that another member of the committee is engaging in, quote, blatant misinformation. So Dr. Elfson posted the post from CPC MP Dan Mazier is blatant misinformation. So when I say what I think happened with this motion at hand, and I let the public know about that on social media, is he going to call that blatant misinformation again? And I mean, it's not collegial. It's unprofessional. I think he said gaslighting. He called it gaslighting. So, and just to catch everyone up, so Mr. Mazier said that Mr. Elfson shut down the health committee's investigation into Prescribe IT, which in effect he did by adjourning the meeting. And now we've tried to bring that investigation, which Mr. Elfson assured Tristan Bach would be occurring. We've tried to include that collaboratively in the study that he wants to do. So we're trying to put two things together, and he's already agreed to it on Twitter, but he just voted it down here. So, I guess I'm having a really hard time knowing how to vote on this amendment and whether I'm going to be called a gaslighter or a misinformer, because his comments seem to suggest that the minister is coming to speak about Prescribe IT, and I really want that to happen.
Thank you, and I will go to Mr. Blanchett Chonka. Please go ahead, then Parliamentary Secretary Chi after that. Please
Merci
go ahead,
beaucoup,
Mr.
Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, I think that there's a lot of confusion on the government side today. My colleague's point is relevant. It's important. Beyond mentioning what was spoken in committee, when parliamentarians go on social media to say something else other than what they said at committee, it undermines collegiality and the confidence of the public. So what happens at the committee is public. During our meeting on May 5th, we had actually extended an invitation to the minister to come in to talk about the famous Prescribe IT scandal. And our colleague MP Elfson told us we have no idea what the agenda of the Minister of Health would look like. Her appointments could be canceled, so we wouldn't want to be in a position to put her in a tough situation. We are open to having the minister, but within the timelines you have indicated, it wouldn't be. So they're saying that they're open to the idea, but they don't know when, and then we end up inviting the minister, but now they end up saying the opposite, actually. They don't want the minister to come here. So it's not quite coherent coming from our colleagues. Maybe they would like to explain that. They say one thing and then they go on to say the opposite. But it's also important to note that the minister actually said the opposite of what her colleague said in the chamber. When a question was asked whether she would appear in committee, she said she has no problem. So, but the colleagues of the minister at committee here are saying that we don't want to impose a timeline on the minister because we don't know about her, how busy she is. But the minister herself is saying there's no problem. But her colleagues are not saying the same thing. So, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if they are part of the same team. What's going on in this government party? There are colleagues who are saying that the minister cannot come, the minister comes, and then there is this amendment to invite the minister. I mean, what we want is just to know what is happening. People have a right to know the truth, and the puck stops with the minister. She is the one who makes the decisions in terms of public policy impacting health in the federal government. So I think it's important to get the record straight, and it's unfortunate that our colleagues are not in agreement amongst themselves with regard to inviting and having the minister over. I mean, it's almost been a month. It was on May 5th. Our colleagues said no initially.
This is completely off topic of the amendment of which we are speaking.
Mr. Blanchard-Jonka, I gave you enough time. I didn't want to interrupt you. But if we can stick to the topic, that would be nice, because we can filibuster the meeting as long as we want. But if we can stay on the topic, that will be great. So please stay on the topic, and floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Alors, vous voyez...
Thank you, Chair. I mean, once again, concrete example showing that our colleagues are not feeling comfortable with us saying these things, because it's high time we said the truth to the people tuning in, to taxpayers. I understand that he's in a tough situation. I would actually be in a tough situation if I were in his shoes. If people start saying things that are not true. I mean, the first mistake was to say that the minister cannot come when the minister said the opposite, and then going on the social media saying that it's the opposition creating a problem. It's not true. And then in the chamber, the minister said that she had no problem appearing before the committee. So,
the topic, just to the amendment only, please. That's what we are talking about. We are not talking about the House. We are not talking about the Twitters. We are not talking about the Facebooks. I have said it time and time again. Respectfully, I will still give you the floor. But if you can keep on doing this, then I have to move to the next speaker. So, Mr. Blanchard-Jonka, the floor is yours.
D'accord, Monsieur le Président. Je comprends que vous aussi.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I see that you are also not feeling very comfortable in front, given this situation, by the government.
Point of order.
Okay.
I just want to jump in here. I know Monsieur Blanchard-Jonka mentioned that the chair is feeling uncomfortable. I just want to caution members here, because our chair has been very fair and neutral. So please refrain from phrases like that.
Back to Mr. Blanchard-Jonka, my style of chairmanship, I've been in this place, for a long time. My role here is to be fair to every member and making sure that I keep the decorum and I keep the members on topic. That's all. I don't feel uncomfortable because I've been in this place, for so long. So I totally understand. But I respectfully ask you to stay the topic, and floor is yours.
Alors, merci, Monsieur le Président. Revenons.
Thank you, Chair. Let's go back to the subject then. I mean, colleagues are coming to your defense, but I will give you a concrete example of something that happened at committee recently. I'm going to talk about the motion that's before us, of course, but on the meeting we had just before we broke for the 2 weeks, there was a question of privilege that came up, and you were able to make a ruling on the spot. But in the last meeting we had, well, this week, actually, Tuesday on May 26th, the same thing happened, but you were this time around able to.
Jonka, I already addressed this. This is up to me because I, as a chair, have made the decision how I wanted. Okay, and if I can think on the spot, if I see, I totally understand what the motion is all about, and I make that decision. It's totally appropriate, and you have the right to challenge me. And I can tell you that it is, you cannot dictate me whether I should take the decision right way or I should wait for a week. So it is up. If I wasn't sure about that motion, I just wanted to make sure I'm able to go through line by line and the subject. So that's why I did it. And in fact, if I go previously, I gave the opposition members chance to amend when they were not on topic. According to the standards, it was not allowed, but I still, because I wanted the members to work collegially, and I gave the members to amend the motion. So I am telling you right now, I try to be as fair as possible. In fact, I give the opposition members the time that they need, the space, and the voice that they want to raise. And I will continue to do that, but and it's my prerogative when to make a decision on what, and if I need some time, I will take time. If I don't need time, I will make that decision right on the spot. So I have addressed that in the last meeting. So I will move on to Madam Chi. Madam Chi, floor is yours.
Rappel au règlement, Monsieur le Président.
Point of order, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Oui, je vais poursuivre, Monsieur le Président.
I am going to continue. You opened another debate. I simply answered. I'm ready to speak to the motion. There's no problem. For HIV, of course, it's very important to have this motion from our colleagues.
And because we have Ms. Chi, then Mr. Bailey and Major and Mr.
La
Chi.
vérité choque, Monsieur le Président, je comprends
Point of
très
order.
bien. Et vous
There's a
voulez me
point
censurer
of, okay,
présentement.
there's a point of order right now. One person at a time, please. I don't like to see two people speaking because it's very hard on the interpreters, it's very hard on the analysts to keep track, and it's very hard on other members. So please, I cleared that in the beginning today, that only one person at a time, and I will make sure, and the clerk will make sure that we maintain the schedule for speaking. So we have a point of order by Mr. Major. You have the floor.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Blanchet was pushing the limits, as you so recognize, but he still had the floor, Chair. So in all due respect to process, he now starts. He's offered him wisdom on the guidance of that. So now he wants to talk about the motion, and that's what he said. So I don't think it's fair to cut him off.
Thank you, Mr. Major. Mr. Major, as I said in the earlier beginning, because I tried to bring him to the topic time and time again, and I felt that he wasn't coming. So if he's going to speak to the topic, then I'll give the floor to Mr. Blanchard Jonka one more time before I go to Madam Chi. Okay.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Et
Thank
oui,
you very much, Chair. So this is a very relevant topic, and I think that the motion is very important. Now, I also would like to draw your attention to one point. We should also be able to look into health transfers, which inevitably will end up impacting healthcare services, social services, be it in Quebec or in other provinces of Canada. So this angle could maybe added to this study because we've seen a reduction in health transfers in recent years, and unfortunately, the impact is such that it's harder for healthcare workers to face different types of crises, such as the HIV crisis, which is going on in a number of provinces. That was the point I wanted to make. I would love if the colleagues considered this to be relevant from a monetary point of view, and the fact that there has been a decline in healthcare services. That's all I had to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Blanchard Jonka, and If you haven't brought it in motion, so I will move on to Ms. Chi. Ms. Chi, your floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So just recognizing what's been happening today, we've seen a lot of delay. We've seen, as members here and Chair yourself pointed out, filibustering. As Manitoba has declared a public health
Hold on,
emergency.
Ms. Chi. There's a point of order by Mr. Mazier. Have the floor.
I think you were trying to get Mr. Blanchet on subject. That has nothing to do with the debate.
I will come
So,
to that.
well,
it's just
we
she
have to
spoke
hold
just
each
one
other
word.
to account.
She just spoke one word, and if she stays on that, then I will cut her off. Okay, Madam Chi, on the topic, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. And I think that just demonstrated to Canadians, our members couldn't even get a word in, and we get cut off by point of orders, point of privileges. Members opposite has presented an amendment that members over on our side agree with, and yet we see disagreement from their end. So I would recommend that they shore up their own support first within their own party. They claim that they're worried, they're concerned about this topic. They claim they're worried, they're concerned about the topic raised by Dr. Aofson. And Manitoba has declared a public health emergency because HIV cases are rising at an alarming rate. And new cases have increased from 90 in 2019 to 328 in 2025. And on top of that, Manitoba's HIV rate is now more than 3.5 times the national average. And that's why the province declared a state of emergency on this public health crisis. And we're talking about a serious and growing crisis impacting real people, families, and communities. And simply, it's unacceptable that the opposition members are blocking discussions on this motion and blocking debates on this
Madam
motion.
Chi, they are not blocking.
And
In
delaying.
fact, they are speaking, and they have every right to speak. So please keep to the topic. Thank you.
And I just want to say this crisis impacts particularly Indigenous communities and vulnerable populations. And as Mr. Blanchet-Jonca mentions the public health workers, they are at the forefront of fighting this crisis. And they're all calling for urgent action. Canadians are calling for urgent action from this committee. So I implore opposition members to pass this motion at once, so we can speak to Canadians with confidence that we are taking this seriously, and we can support the members in the provinces of Manitoba. We can support members like Dr. Aofson. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chi. And so I'm going to say the whole speaking list. We have Mr. Bailey, then Mr. Mazier, then Dr. Aofson, then Madam Sidhu, and then Dr. Strauss. So we will go to Mr. Bailey. Please go ahead. Floor yours.
Thank you, Chair. Like I said, I'm new to committee work, but we certainly weren't filibustering. If we were filibustering, Biddle would be here and Janice would be coming through the door. So I take offense that anybody's accusing. I asked some very serious questions of yourself. You weren't part of this committee back what we were talking about. And what I was asking you was very honest because I don't know how to get questions answered through the clerk. So I will be sending you an email so that we can truly understand what was said prior. And I'm not going to bring in Dr. Ellison's Twitter or anything like that, but John Carr just reminded me of what was said in the House today, and it really resonates with me because even the health minister committed today that she wants to come. So this motion, I just hope that the cameras stay on, and I hope that this committee can vote on this today and we work together because I agree with Maggie, I agree with Doug, I agree with everyone. This is a very important study. That's why I brought up syphilis, because I think it is something that is so important and I really appreciate everyone agreeing with it. And again, Chair, I will send you that email as soon as committee is done so that we can both familiarize ourselves with what happened back in May the 5th with the minister and how we can make sure that when we start this study that the cameras stay on and that she appears and we get a proper opportunity to ask the questions on how we can get the provinces aligned with what our study unveils. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. I can only call the vote when the list is exhausted. So I have 4 more speakers. I have Mr. Mazier next. Please go ahead.
Yeah, and I would really thank Ms. Chi for her intervention and in reminding us how we got here. I mean, to call us, like, you know, we're filibustering, I used a whole bunch of words there that we're really trying to get to the bottom of what the contradiction of opinion is. We've asked simply for the minister to come in on a program, a program that has failed. $300 million has gone out the door. And by you referring to what Mr. Evelson said earlier in an earlier meeting, a part of this meeting, this is just a continuation of the meeting we've had, what, for 2 weeks now? I really do wonder, when Mr. Evelson was actually, and you've commented, Chair, that you don't want us to read, like you don't want us to refer to acts and what someone's posted. But I think it really does speak to the crux of the whole problem with misinformation when it comes to the House of Commons. And us
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Oh my gosh.
Mr. Chair, this is also clarification too. You read everything, the rules, when we start the meeting. So what's the point of reading the rules if our opposite member are not following that? So
Thank you, Madam Sidhu, for bringing forward. I will make that decision
So
when
with
I
that,
need to.
I
Right
think-
now, the floor is with Mr. Mazier. So, Mr. Mazier, please go ahead.
And I think, well, and fair point, like here we are, and I just simply brought up, what do we actually believe about what is misinformation? I can understand we can have a different opinion, but I mean, Mr. Evelson made some very serious allegations against me on X. Like to say that I was gaslighting, like I was trying to influence people so they think they're wrong. Like it's psychological warfare. I was not doing that. I was simply debating at a health committee.
Again, Mr. Mazier, we can stick to
If I
the
can't
topic.
speak now in the House of Commons
sub-amendment is,
for myself, there's something wrong here, Chair.
listen,
You're the chair.
Mr. Mazier, my role is in the committee only. What happens in the House, what happens on the, unless it is directly related to the topic that we are studying, and we are studying the topic of HIV right now, the issue that Manitoba is facing right now, and you belong to that province, and I tell you that I can only call the vote on this, the amendment that you brought forward once the list is exhausted. As soon as the members get their speaking done, I can call the vote, and then you fellows can decide. So my role is just to administer, making sure that every member who has the hand up, give them the time. So if you have to, I'm not going to say one person or the other. I'm not attacking this side or the other. I'm telling both sides. When I say, I'm not talking to one side. So, Mr. Mazier, you done?
Yeah, so thank you for that, Chair. And I guess it goes back to my point. So whatever we say here, and I guess if a member decides that we think we're gaslighting and don't believe what Dan Mazier says, I mean, I think that's kind of like, if we can have the discussions here at the table, I think it's a lot better. So I want to talk back to the motion and HIV in general. And I mean, if you think it's bad and we're blocking all this, this is a very personal matter to me in my writing. The town of Swan River is probably the epicenter for everybody talks about Winnipeg. Doug, you think you got problems? It's the highest per capita in the whole entire province. And it's been for years. So I commented a bit on this last meeting. Like, obviously what we're doing is not working. There was over 500,000 needles distributed amongst a community of 4,000 in Swan River. Can you imagine that? No. And they were asking for Sharpies containers, the people that were distributing these, asking for Sharpie containers so they would put them after they used the needles. Crime severity index in Swan River 2 years ago, 2019, it was one of the 10 best places to retire in Canada. It's now moved to the highest crime severity index in all of Canada, a community of 4,000. So in your motion, you did refer to, I think it was opioids and public awareness effects and intergovernmental consideration related to HIV care and support services. There was a medical public health individuals' lived experiences. Those people have gone through hell. And that's why I wanted to talk about the opioid entertainment and the epidemic that's happening, and it's happening in Manitoba. And then I wanted to also talk about how can we move forward? How can we talk about why were there 500,000 needles distributed in the community of a 4,000? Like, who is doing that? Who is okaying that? So then we go to Winnipeg. And there is the Liberal government in 2000, I think around 17, maybe even 21. They did make a loophole in the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. And when you talk about consumption sites and treatment, so through 56.1, there's exemption, and then there's a class exemption for the provinces to develop their own treatment facilities. So there's two federally approved sanctions legislation that we need to look at the Health Committee if we want to address the opioid epidemic and the consumption sites in this study. So that's why I asked the other day to include the opioid study and at least let's start having a conversation around treatment. I was asking for that. You did shut that down. You absolutely said no to that. And then again, I noticed the other day you were saying, well, that's not right. Maggie actually did comment last night on the Late Show that, no, that's not right. So who is gaslighting here? Like, that's what happened here, folks. We were trying to talk about this. This is very reasonable stuff. So with that, I will end.
Thank you, Mr. Major. We will go to Dr. Eopson. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say again, this is time is of the essence in this. People are dying, including in Mr. Mazier's riding. I agree. That is a hot spot. And this is something that one of the reasons that we were, I thought that this was so important to bring up at this time. I'd like to see it move forward. I am in complete agreement with Mr. Mazier's amendment, which is what we are talking about here today. And I implore all members to pass the amendment of Mr. Mazier's so that we can go ahead and pass this motion so we can get going on this study. I don't want to see people dying while we are waiting to take action. Please, please, let us all take action for vulnerable people.
Thank you, Mr. Eopson. We will go to Madam Sidhu. Please go ahead. Floor yours. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to urge the opposite member, as the Vice Chair's hometown is also Manitoba, and this is a medical emergency over there. That is why we urge the opposition member, please go forward, and then we can study this topic. And then we agree with that. When they said syphilis study, okay. Then they said bring the health minister on this because we want to study this. And I say thank you to Dr. Alsons for bringing this topic. It's important. Let's do this study. That's what my urge to the opposition member. Let's it pass.
Thank you, Madam Sidhu. Again, I will repeat that until the list is exhausted, speaking list is exhausted, I cannot call the vote, so we have Dr. Strauss on the list. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I found Ms. Chi's comments very interesting. Specifically, she said that Canadians are looking for this committee to take action. And I guess I found that surprising because the Minister of Health is the person who is able to take action on this crisis. And this committee doesn't really take action. This committee procures documents, this committee discusses, this committee debates, this committee prepares reports. If we do this study, the only action that I foresee, unless somebody else on the governing benches would like to correct me, the only action I foresee is that a report would be forthcoming. And a report's not really action, but I mean, as far as reports go, but we already have 3 other reports in the pipeline that haven't been produced yet. So, like, what is the urgency to discuss this study in order to produce a report when we haven't produced reports on the last 3 studies? And so I guess, you know, she is the parliamentary secretary, so she's close to the Minister of Health. She's close to the person who could take action. And I guess I would just want to understand, 1, what action is she expecting this committee to take? 2, why doesn't the health minister just take that action presently? And 3, which Canadians specifically have been asking for the health committee to, like, I haven't seen that in media. I haven't seen that on social media. Nobody's contacted my office demanding that the health committee take action on this. And if they did, I'd have to educate them about, like, what limited actions the health committee can take. So I just, perhaps you could table with us, like, because what I do see, conversely, by way of counterexample, is a lot of interest in the $300 million that went missing with Prescribe IT. Like, Canadians are demanding an investigation on that. There's been umpteen stories just in the Globe and Mail alone about that. So I'll leave that with her. If she could just please explain to me which Canadians are demanding that this committee take action.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Strauss. We will go to MP Blanchette Jonka. Please go ahead.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Mr.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm here. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to speak to this important matter before us today. Now, I'd like to explain to our colleagues that this is an emergency, but there's also emergency to fund healthcare systems appropriately. And of course, in the 1960s and the 70s, the federal government pledged to cover 50% of healthcare spending of provinces, and in Quebec, we're at 22 to 24%. So there's an imbalance. And the government of Manitoba, that is living through this crisis, is saying that the federal government is paying for about 20% of its healthcare expenditures. So, and with the indirect transfers under some programs, maybe it goes up to 22%. So the issue is that, Mr. Chair, for years, the federal government has been positioning itself as this great defender of the public health systems, but Quebec and the provinces are actually pointing to this fundamental program. So the services and the networks are not being funded appropriately. So to the people tuning in, under Harper government in 2011, there was a major change. A decision was made to reduce Canada Health transfers, because it used to be the case that these were going up by 6% per year. So in 2011, the Conservative government decided that starting from 2017, that formula will be replaced by an increase that is connected to the 3-year average in growth in GDP. So there was a fixed increase at 6% that was predictable, but then it was changed into something much slower connected to the economy. So this had impacts on healthcare systems, and as a result, Manitoba and other provinces in Canada and in Quebec especially, it's now harder to respond to different crises. The Justin Trudeau government took power in 2015. They could have gone to the previous formula, but they chose to preserve the Conservative government's change. So the Conservatives and the Liberals ended up doing the same thing when it came to funding healthcare systems and carrying out these health transfers. So we'll continue to underline that this is an issue. And you don't even have to be an expert in these matters to understand how it works, because it's just one line item, or it used to be. So there are crises. We have to face these, and the federal government's role is, well, they're not taking action. They're underfunding progressively and in a structural manner, leading to the issues that we have today. So I would like to express my solidarity with the workers in the healthcare system who have been impacted. So the transfers have been going down, but the real costs of the healthcare systems have skyrocketed. We have an aging population, we have inflation, we have revenues and salaries going up, or the cost of new medication, medical technology, mental health issues, drug addictions, emergencies, public health crises such as HIV. So numbers speak for themselves, Mr. Chair. The healthcare expenditure in Canada, it's a lot of money, almost $400 billion in 2025. And we have seen about 7.5% increase in that number, 6.1% in 2024, and 4.2% in 2025. So all this to say that the federal formula limits the growth in health transfers by adopting or maintaining this new formula. That is why all provinces and Quebec have asked the Trudeau government at the time to do something about this. At the Council of the Federation, a request was made to introduce a sustainable increase in health transfers so that it would go up to 35% of the expenditure incurred in healthcare systems. But unfortunately, that was rejected. So that would have been $28 billion more per year without conditions from the federal government. The Liberal government proposed something else, which was over 10 years, about $200 billion. But in terms of the percentage, it just did not meet the need. We were going up to maybe 24% from 22, so far from the 35% requested by Quebec and all other provinces. So in other words, Ottawa did not fix an issue. There's an imbalance that is fundamental that we have been pointing out for years by Quebec and other provinces as well, and the result is very concrete across the country. And I would like to make it clear for people. I am convinced that Manitoba and other provinces, when they're faced with different crises, unfortunately, they're underfinanced. We have to acknowledge this, and this is a very important role. The delivery of healthcare services is what we're talking about. And I speak to people who work in these fields. There are problems at hospitals, wait lists, staff shortages. It's hard to have access to physicians. We are seeing more and more mental health issues. It's very hard even to get an appointment with a psychologist. There are addiction issues, and there are also community organizations working in all of these areas. They're at the front line of all of these efforts, and I would like to acknowledge their efforts and thank them. And recently, we had a number of crises which have become more and more difficult to manage. So what I would like to highlight to my colleagues is that in provinces such as Manitoba, the HIV crisis is actually pointing to the consequences of a healthcare services network that is constantly under pressure. It's not because these people don't want to do the right thing. It's a question of capacity. Without getting what they are due from the federal government, it will inevitably get harder and harder for these people to face different crises. So this is the crux of the matter. The federal government keeps announcing billions of dollars, press conference after press conference, multiple strategies, but they refuse to pay for this funding that is requested. It's not a luxury. It's to save people's lives. It's to make sure that people are healthy. If something is going to be a priority, in my opinion, it has to be this. Caring for people is a big responsibility, especially vulnerable people, because they are having a hard time with temporary or permanent health problems. We need a sustainable healthcare system, and that relies on better funding. Once again, it was not a spectacular cut from the government, but it happened in gradual steps. But the result is very concrete. We have healthcare systems that are very fragile across the country, and to conclude on this note, Mr. Chair. I know there are choices to be made. I know the resources are not unlimited, but when you look at the last federal budget, we have the biggest deficit in Canada's history, $78 billion. So it recently maybe came down to 66 billion and change, but we haven't seen any increase in health transfers. We are not seeing more help for healthcare workers in these areas to improve their conditions, to better respond to HIV crises, among others. A lot of people will understand the situation. The government managed to find $82 billion over 5 years maybe, but for national defense, they managed to find this money. But they did not manage to find money to improve healthcare systems, to take care of people, to save lives. So, Mr. Chair, it was important for me to make this point. The government is completely disconnected from the needs of the people. Health is a priority, and I think we are not headed in the right direction to improve healthcare systems and to take care of our people. Thank you.
Mr. Blanchard-Jonca, we have two persons on the list, Dr. Strauss, then Mr. Major. Dr. Strauss, please go ahead.
I'm just so sorry because I thought I asked some pretty specific questions to Ms. Chi about her comments, which I thought were really interesting, and I wanted to hear more about them. And I guess she's not interested in explaining what she had said. I guess on the broader motion at hand, I'm just still left totally confused what the scheduling is going to be like, and I'm not sure if that question is best put to the clerk or to Mr. Elson. Is it her intention? Is it his intention? Which is the intention that matters as to when this HIV study will begin? And yes, please.
Okay, as soon as this is passed, because we have till 5:30 today. If we conclude this topic by 5:30, the next meeting that I'm going to put it together is for the committee business, right? So then we will be able to decide in that committee business, what we have to study. So now up to the members, if by 5:30 we do not conclude this, then the meeting is suspended, the next meeting. So it would not happen that business meeting will come only after we conclude this one, and the next meeting that I and clerk are planning is on setting the business agenda, what we can achieve in the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
That's really important information, Chair, so thank you for sharing that. But I guess it's like I truthfully am grateful for you sharing that, but I guess that arrangement to me is dissatisfactory in the sense that I can't decide how to vote on this motion if I don't know if it's going to be taking precedence over some of the other really important committee work, or if it's going to be coming after. And this is really important. And I take it at the committee business meeting, it will be these committee members who decide what the order will be. So I don't know why we have to keep that secret until then. Why don't we just hash that out right now? If the members opposite would just let me know how they intend to order things. I mean, they have the votes, right? All we have is the ability to make these speeches. It is true they have all the power in this situation. So if they could just tell us how they intend to schedule this study at committee business, that would help me understand how I should vote on the motion at hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Strauss. You have all the power to make that decision when we call that meeting, a business meeting that sets up the agenda. So right now I'm going to focus only on the amendment brought by Mr. Major. I have to first deal with that, and then if it gets amended, then I have to deal with the motion as amended. So my role is to keep the sequence right now, because I have a motion on the floor, so I cannot put this motion aside right now. It's the committee's will. Whatever committee wants me right now, the committee's will is to have a debate on Mr. Major's amendment. Until all the list of the speakers exhaust, I cannot take that decision. So I have put you on the list again. So after Mr. Major, Dr. Strauss will be speaking again. So Mr. Major, please go ahead.
Chair, and I guess, thanks. My colleague brings up a very important thing as far as scheduling. And I guess one question for the clerk. So how long would it take to do a report like this? And it's just like, so 2 meetings, what's your estimate? Like, what would that look like?
It will be the question to the analysts, and I have to let me see if they're willing to. Otherwise, I will make my decision. Okay, so Mr. Major, I would be able to answer your question right now because there are two meetings. Depends on the witnesses that we bring forward, or once the committees. Right now we are talking hypothetical things, right? So which I would not be able to answer, and clerk and the analyst would not be able to answer that either, because we do not know what's going to happen in those meetings and how long after that meetings are over, then we will be able to ask that question. So I would like you, let's focus on your amendment right now. And once we get your amendment out of the way, then we have the motion as amended out of the way, if the committee decides to pass it, and then we can talk about those things after the business agenda is set. Thank you.
Is it fair to say it won't be done before summer break?
I can't say that right now.
You think
because,
we can do it next week?
I tell you right now, if I can't make
and
the
the
decision.
reason I guess I'm asking, Chair, and it's back to the scheduling order, and it's back to the comments that Mr. Effelson made, stating like there was like this. Don't worry, prescribed IT study is going to be done, and yet I guess I'm asking for the sponsor. When you introduced this motion, Doug, what was your expectation on scheduling? Did you like
Point
you
of
wanted
order,
it-
Mr. Chair. Is that we are working on HIV or we are
We can go through the chair. Okay, I'll ask.
Major, if you can keep your comments to me, and I will see if I have to go to the member. Right now, we are discussing the motion amendment to the motion proposed by you. Go ahead, Mr.
And
Major.
I'm just for clarification, Chair. I really I want to know what the sponsor's expectations were when he introduced this motion. Did he wanted to get it where would he see this in the was it expected to be done before summer? Like, what was the expectations when he introduced the motion?
I cannot force members to say that, because right now Mr. A. Opson want to address your concerns. So, Mr. Major, I will give him the floor before I give the floor to Mr. Strauss. Okay? Okay. Mr. A. Opson, go ahead, please.
Given the crisis, the expectation was as soon as possible.
Okay. Thank you. Are you done, Mr. Major?
So before or after the prescribed IT study? That you mentioned in your tweet.
Again, Mr. Major, he alone, one member cannot make the decision on the agenda. The business meeting will happen after this meeting, and this is concluded. So we will discuss that there. So let's leave it there right
this
now.
This was misinformation then. Would that be fair?
I'm not going to say misinformation. Right now, I want to focus only on the motion as amended. And once that is done, then I will move on to if it get amended, I will move on to the motion as amended. Then if this gets decided, then I will come back to your question, the hypothetical question that you're asking. So because right now we have speakers on the list, I inform the honorable members, because my hands are tied. I can only call the vote once the list is exhausted. If there is a member on the speaking list, I have to give them the time before I call the vote. So I have Dr. Strauss on the list. Please go ahead. And Mr. Mental, welcome to the meeting, and you will speak after Dr. Strauss. Okay, Dr. Strauss.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. I guess I'm doing my best to make sense of everything that I'm hearing and trying to understand what is actually happening. And I just have to say I'm really disappointed, because I think I have started to figure out what is happening. And I remember when the Prime Minister said that they were going to get their majority, and that was going to cause for there to be less procedural games at committee. But I think we are seeing the proceduralist games, the gamiest games. We have, yeah.
I will interrupt you there.
Okay.
I tell you right now,
Yeah.
Dr. Strauss, I as a chair,
Yes.
there is no procedural game right now. There is a motion amended by, there's an amendment brought by Mr. Mayor. If you call that as a game, I would not take that. I'm taking this HIV topic very seriously, and I take the amendment brought by Mr. Mayor very seriously as well. So let's focus on that. If you have anything to speak to that amendment, I would give you the floor. Otherwise, I'll move it to Mr. Mantle. So.
Yeah, so I think as I've come to understand like what the butt of what we're trying to accomplish, what they're trying to accomplish is, I think I've distilled a way that we can maybe clarify things, and I'd like to make an amendment to Mr. Mazur's amendment. So I would like to, yeah.
So we have a sub-amendment.
Yes.
So please, members, if you can take your seats so as you can listen to Dr. Strauss's sub-amendment.
Yes,
Okay, if it's long, then I would
very
like
short.
to short.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Strauss, please go ahead.
At the end of his amendment to add, to discuss health-related funding and programs under the purview of Health Canada.
Repeat again, please. To discuss slowly.
Let me just grab the text again. I had it written out for myself. To discuss health-related funding and programs under the purview of Health Canada. And I think it's an important amendment because ultimately what has come out of these Twitter statements, and then they're kind of, like I won't mention the G word again, but it seems to me that there's going to be disagreement about what the health minister is coming to do. If it is that the health minister is coming to do the things that Dr. Elfson assured everyone on Twitter she would be coming to do, then that's terrific. So I think this is a very clarifying sub-amendment, and hopefully everyone will support it.
Thank you, Dr. Strauss. I would like you to give a copy in both official languages because I want to make sure Mr. Blanchet-Jonca gets the copy in French and the other members that prefer to have it in French. So I'm going to suspend the meeting for a few minutes if you can provide that. Clerk, did you get it? So the clerk got that, and she's going to distribute to all the members. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes before she does that. meeting back to order. And
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
point of order, Mr. Mantle.
Sorry, I have not received the text of the
Oh,
motion.
okay. Just a minute, please. So I have to suspend for one more minute before Mr. Mantle gets there. Okay. Suspended. It is my understanding that every honorable member got the copy of the sub-amendment in both official languages. So we are on the debate on Dr. Strauss's sub-amendment. Any speakers? Mr. Mantle, please go ahead.
Do you want me to go or no? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for welcoming me to the committee. I'm new to the Health Committee, although I've known Dr. Strauss for some time now, as well as Dr. Jasek. Nice to see you here. We share a border in York Region. I know she's a great doctor. I have great respect for her and her work in Ontario and in our community. We share Oak Ridge Health Network, so I know she's passionate about that. Just so I'm going to recap where we are so I understand what we're discussing. As I understand it, as a new member to the table, there's a motion to conduct a study on HIV in Mr. Mazur's part of Canada. And then there has been an amendment to bring the health minister to discuss that outbreak in Mr. Mazur's area. And then Mr. Strauss has moved a sub-amendment to sort of expand the contours, put some guardrails around the discussion for the minister if she were to attend, which was to discuss health-related funding and programs under the purview of the health department. Have I got that right, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. When I entered the committee room, Mr. Chair, there's some pretty inflammatory language that I heard from the other side of Mr. Elfson to the effect that people were going to die if the committee did not undertake this emergency study of HIV. I can't comment on why he might have said that, although I would observe that the committee has no impact on the direct health care provided to Canadians. Of course, that's a provincial responsibility, number one, jurisdictionally, as he would know, although some significant funding comes from the federal government. But to suggest that, make a pretty strong claim that if this committee doesn't do some research and hear from some witnesses that Canadians will die from HIV, I think is a little bit beyond the facts. I'll put it that way. Now, that's not to say, Mr. Chair, that HIV and a study like that is not important. Of course it is. I think all members around this table, I know the members on our side, especially are concerned about the health care of Canadians, which we know is in a pretty sorry state in certain parts of the country. I had a family member who was at a hospital just this past week and waited 8 hours to get into see an emergency room. So there are certainly emergencies across the country. HIV is an important one, and I think we would be amenable to studying that. But I think that's sort of beyond the point. I mean, the reality of this motion put forward is because the government would prefer to talk about anything other than prescribe IT, which has dominated.
Mental, if you can focus your comments, you weren't here. I would respectfully give you the time. If we can focus on HIV, I would love to keep this committee meeting in order, right? So as there's no cross changes. So floor is yours.
Absolutely, Chair, and you will be the arbiter of that, as is your right. I believe the sub-amendment, however, is to discuss health-related funding and programs under the purview of the Department of Health. Would Prescribe IT not be one of those health-related programs that's under the purview of the minister? So is that not directly relevant to this sub-amendment? It could be a topic that the minister may be questioned about at committee. Am I correct on that?
I'm not going to make the decision. It's up to you.
Okay, well, I mean, that's my understanding.
So you continue. I gave you the floor, though.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that Prescribe IT is a health-related program that would be under the purview of the minister, and so that would be available for discussion should the government decide to agree to this sub-amendment to the amendment to the motion, because as we know, the government has a majority on this committee. A recent majority, which they clearly are using to avoid discussion of Prescribe IT, and I understand why. I mean, it's a fiasco, it's a debacle, no matter how you know two ways about it. $300 million were spent on a program that produced no measurable or tangible results for Canadians. Now, I think we understand that governments make mistakes, and not all programs are successful, but one of the actual jobs of parliamentary committees is to provide oversight and accountability of government, especially spending. And I make that point because in our system of government, over 1,000 years of constitutional history, it has always been Parliament that can tax and spend money. Since 1215 on the fields of Runnymede in the Great Charter. That has been our tradition. And so it is incumbent upon this committee, whose mandate is health-related programs, to investigate when the government falls short. And I think it's fair that if the minister were to come on this sub-amendment to the amendment to the motion, that she could be questioned on that. It's a topic of public discourse, and as I said, I understand why the government may not want to discuss it. But I think we should discuss it. We should, as a committee, review that so that we can understand what happened, what went wrong, what could be improved upon, because, ultimately, yes, there's blame to go around for sure, but ultimately, we want to understand what happened so we don't repeat mistakes that were made in the past with these programs. Clearly, there has been at least some measure of accountability, whether it's accountability or scapegoating. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to get to the bottom of that with the former CEO, who was unceremoniously dumped from his position after his testimony at this committee, which was, less than ideal. I haven't reviewed it all myself, but saw some of it, so I understand why he was quite quickly removed from his position. But beyond that, the minister who is responsible for that position, who herself admitted that she was involved in removing him so quickly, should be here to take responsibility herself as well, Mr. Chair. So I think that discussing health-related fundings and programs would provide us the ability to ask for those questions, even if it is in the context of a study and a motion on HIV, which, if we are, this side I know for sure is interested in addressing that exigent topic, but we've been put down this path because of the obfuscation of the other side, who doesn't want to talk about Prescribe IT. If the other side would agree to discuss this in a more good faith manner and bring the minister on that specific topic, finish the already started review of Prescribe IT, then we could expeditiously, I'm sure, move on to the topic that Dr. Elfson would like us to discuss, which is, of course, important too. And so I take a bit of umbrage to his comments that this must be the priority or people will die. I mean, this committee deals with many important topics that affect people's health. And I certainly wouldn't take the position that some people's health is more of a priority than others. So if he wants to clarify his earlier comments, I'd invite him to do that. Perhaps he could also clarify his comments that he's made on social media, which have caused some of the concern here at this table, which I think is why we are using our ability to push the government to do what it knows is right, which is to bring the minister here to face some accountability before this committee and before Canadians. And I don't understand why they are so resistant to that. We should have a system of ministerial responsibility. That is another long-standing tradition of our parliamentary system, which has seemed to have gone the wayside in the last 10 years, where no matter how big the scandal, no matter how problematic the minister, no one ever resigns, no one ever takes responsibility until they are either pushed out because of public pressure or they are so unable to complete their duties. It seems to me there's a few on the front bench that might fit that, but we're concerned here with the Minister of Health. And so we are unfortunately put in this position to be discussing the motion, an amendment, and a sub-amendment solely and only because the government refuses to bring the former CEO of Prescribe IT to give evidence to this committee. Now, why would they want to avoid bringing the former CEO of Prescribe IT, Prescribe IT to this committee? Well, I think they would want to prevent that for a few reasons. They fired him, Mr. Chair. They fired him. So whatever loyalty or whatever hesitation he might have in providing a full testimony.
If you can focus to the minister and minister's mandate, I would let you speak.
Sure.
Please continue.
Sure. Well, the minister's mandate is, of course, to exercise accountability over her office. She seems to have done that by firing the previous CEO of Prescribe IT. So to understand her mandate and the decisions she made, we want to hear from the individual that she fired, the reasons for that being fired, and what context he could provide to the running of a program directly under the minister's purview. So I think discussing having him here is directly within her purview.
So you want to bring that as a sub-amendment to the,
I mean, if
or
you would,
you're just,
if
or
you would
you're just
entertain,
suggesting?
if
Because
you would entertain a sub-amendment, a further sub-amendment, then I would certainly be
let
willing
me,
to
let
move
me,
one.
let me get the decision on the sub-amendment first, and if you want to make a sub-amendment afterwards, if the decision is not made in the way that you wanted, so we can always discuss. So there's no, basically, there's no order for, or suggestion for chair here, right?
Sorry, you were inviting me to make a...
No,
a certain-
right now, if you're not making any amendments or any friendly amendments, then I'll, if you're done, then I'll go to next.
Okay, well,
Okay,
you know,
the sub-amendment is already on.
I take your comment. You know, if we can continue debating this sub-amendment, and if that is not agreed to by the committee, then I may decide to move another one.
Sure.
Is that fair? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll just wrap up my comments, Mr. Chair, by saying I think, you know, I've only been here a year, but it's clear to me that with the government's new majority, they are using it to block, obfuscate, and avoid accountability. And that's why we're having this debate. So I encourage the members opposite to work more cooperatively with the opposition, which the Prime Minister promised he would do, despite having a majority, and we can only take him at his word. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and Mr. Mazier, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry. Just a minute. It was Dr. Strauss, though, right?
Oh, okay.
Dr. Strauss, you.
My time, Mr. Mazier.
Okay, Mr. Mazier, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Strauss, and thank you, Mr. Mantle. That was a great comments there, and reminding us all what we're discussing here. I do have one point of, I guess it's clarification again for Mr. Isselson. I guess, does the sponsor still support having a study on prescribed IT? Because that's what he's implying online, but I just don't know if he could just answer that question. I think a lot of things would be satisfied. So that's my question. If he still supports the idea of a
Question
study
has
on
nothing to do with this, so I don't think that there's
up
a
to the
hand up.
sponsor.
So, Mr. Mazier, continue with the sub-amendment,
It's just
please.
a question for the sponsor. That's all.
Basically,
Does the
because
sponsor
he
want
does
to
not need to answer that because this is relating to the committee business, so he himself cannot make that decision. So let's focus on the sub-amendment, please.
Okay, that was my final question. I guess
Thank you.
if we would know if he still wanted to do a study on prescribed IT, that would be
Thank
good.
you
but I
very
guess if he
much.
doesn't want to answer it, that's good.
Appreciate that. If there are no more speakers, I call the vote.
So this is on the sub-amendment?
Yes, vote on the sub-amendment.
I think he was raising his hand to speak, Mr.
Oh, did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Strauss
Madam Clerk, so I call the vote, so, okay, so we'll take the vote, and then we go to, okay, so Clerk, take the vote, please.
Ms. Chi,
No.
Sorry.
Mr. Elson,
No.
Ms. Jagzik. No. Mr. Rana,
No.
Mr. Sawatsky,
No.
Ms. Sidhu,
No.
Mr. Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Bontel,
Yes.
Mr. Mazier,
Yes.
Mr. Strauss,
Yes.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca.
Oui.
Okay. Sub-amendment defeated. We are back to motion brought forward by Dr. Eopson and the amendment brought forward by Mr. Mazier. So we are debate on the motion as amended by Mr. Mazier, and we have Mr. Mantel and then Dr. Strauss on the list.
I think it's the other way around.
Other way around? You want Dr. Strauss
Sure,
first?
sure thing. I guess I'm totally confused now. So the minister, they seem to agree to have the minister come, but they won't have the minister come with any clarity about what she's coming about. So she can come, but she can't come to discuss programs under the purview of Health Canada. That, like, this is. I don't mean nonsense in a derogatory sense. I mean, like, in a technical sense. I don't understand why they would suggest that they suggested earlier in this meeting they would vote for Mr. Mazur's amendment, but when I tried to provide some clarity, now they voted down the sub amendment. So I'm just inviting any of them to please explain to me what the heck does this mean.
Thank you. And now we will go to Mr. Mantel. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're back to the amendment to the motion to bring the Minister of Health to discuss. We're not sure because the sub-amendment was defeated, which again just puts truth to this whole facade that's going on the other side. And my observation is that it calls into question the sincerity of the emergency that Dr. Alfson has said exists, and the necessity for this committee to review this. Of course, we think HIV is an important issue and should be reviewed, but that's not what's happening here, Mr. Chair. It's pretty clear that the other side is using this to avoid other topics. So at your invitation previously, I'd like to move a sub-amendment to Mr. Mazur's amendment, and it would read simply a comma after the end of his amendment relating to bringing the Minister of Health, and would read, and Michael Green.
One minute. So, Michael Green. It's very clear to you because it's just adding and Michael Green after the minister. You okay?
Oui.
Okay, thank you.
C'est qui Michael Green, Monsieur le Président?
Who's Michael Green, Mr. Chair?
If you don't know, I don't know either. So because this is out of scope, so I'm going to call this sub-amendment out of order. So we're back to amendment made by Dr. Mazier, Mr. Mazier, sorry. Mr. Mazier, please go ahead.
Mr. Chair, we'd like to challenge your decision.
Okay, the chair is challenged. Clerk, take the vote, please. To sustain the chair. To sustain the chair, vote yes. And for me to take off is no. Okay.
Ms. Chi.
Voting.
Yes.
Voting to sustain the chair.
Ms. Alson.
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Rana.
Yes.
Mr. Sawatsky.
Yes.
Ms. Sidhu.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey.
No.
Mr. Montel.
No.
Mr. Mazier.
No.
Mr. Strauss.
No.
Monsieur Blanchet-Jonca.
Non à la censure libérale.
What did he say?
Chair is sustained.
Chair is sustained. Back to the motion amendment brought by Mr. Mazier. Any
I
speakers?
believe I had the floor when I moved my sub-amendment, so I would return to be having the floor.
It's
in
up to
debate.
my discretion, but I will give you the floor.
Okay. Thank you. Understanding your order, or your ruling, rather, Mr. Chair, ruling that out of order, and as was our right, we challenged that, which I think, again, shows exactly the problem here. The government is not interested in hearing from certain individuals on certain issues.
You can stay on the topic, Mr. Mantel. The topic is on HIV, and if you have the motion in front of you?
I do.
Fine. If you want, we can give you a copy. And the amendment brought by Mr. Major. So right now we are discussing the amendment brought by Mr. Major. So if you can please stick to that topic instead of giving your decisions in this committee, I would appreciate that. So floor is yours.
Understood. Understood. I just think it's important that people watching have some clarity on what's happening in the procedures. We're not all.
You don't need to explain the procedures. I will be able to explain those procedures, and you are not there as a chair. You are here as a member, and I would love to. If you want the time given, if I tell you, if you can be insistent about talking on the same topic, I as a chair, I can tell you I read this statement earlier, and I can move on to the next member. So respectfully, I give you the floor. Please stick to the amendment brought by Mr. Major.
Okay, Mr. Chair. And that is the amendment to bring the health minister to testify on the motion from Mr. Alphason on HIV. I think as a principle, that's a good idea to bring the minister, but it's hard to know, exactly where that would lead, because as we've discussed, even if this committee conducts this study, the result of the study will be a draft report written by the analysts. I think you call them analysts here. We do in our committee as well.
Long-suffering analysts.
Long-suffering analysts. Yes, all analysts are long-suffering, I think. But we appreciate their work nonetheless. So the result will be a draft report written by the analysts, of which the committee has no clarity on how long that may take. And then the committee would be required to actually review it, debate it, go through it line by line, and then potentially the opposition could write a dissenting report, or any member could write their own report as well. So, and as I understand, the committee has several reports, or has completed several studies, but has not finished the reports. And so it also remains unclear which studies the committee would prioritize in its review. So therefore, again, I put it to Dr. Alphason, and I invite him to explain himself as to how this study will address what he has described as a pressing medical emergency in a certain part of the country. Because I'm not seeing that, and I'm not seeing the tangible benefits to Canadians by us, the committee, conducting the study. If I'm wrong, I'm open to being wrong. I'm open to saying that, unlike some ministers in this government. I'm open to saying that, but I'll leave my comments there, Mr. Chair, and I'll pass the mic to Dr. Strauss.
Thank you, Mr. Mantel. So we'll go to Dr. Strauss. Dr. Strauss, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think I've been really open with this committee about what I understand is happening, both at this meeting and at the last meeting. It seems to me that this committee was working very, very well in a minority parliament. There were meetings of the vice chairs convened where they agreed, all three parties, to share committee time to get studies that each party thought was important done. And I thought that worked wonderfully. I thought we did 3 great studies, and I'm excited to see those reports. Dr. Alphason has now informed the committee that he wants, without any discussion, no meeting of the vice chairs, the issue that he would like to have studied, which I'm looking forward to, and he wants that to have precedence over all other committee business. He's disclosed that to us. And this is dictatorial. We had a majority on this side between ourselves and the bloc member, Mr. Jean Ka, and we didn't think that because we had 51% or 50% plus one of the members on this committee, that should entitle us to do 100% of the things that we want for the duration of the parliament. That's never something that we thought. And I think we can put this to Canadians. Does this seem fair? that because one member from Sarnia Lambton crossed the floor, giving the Liberals 50% plus one in the House, now they should get to do 100% of the things that they want in this committee for 3 years? Like, will they not simply acknowledge that, like, maybe some of us on this side could have some interesting idea on some topic, and that should be entertained at some time? And as I've said before, I acknowledge that they have the votes. I can only appeal to the better angels of their nature, and also the basic sense of fairness and justice in the Canadian public. And I think failing the first, I think I know which way Canadians will decide. This is bullying. It's dictatorial, and it wasn't the result of the last election. So I guess I'm putting the question to them. I can talk about this for 3 years. It's so fundamental to our system of government. It's so fundamental to the idea of fairness itself that just because you have 50% plus one doesn't mean you get to talk about whatever you want for 3 years. So they have the votes to do that, I acknowledge. But if we're going to fight fire with fire, I also have the ability to talk for 3 years. And I know with certainty that my constituents and Canadians broadly from coast to coast want this committee to investigate Prescribe IT, and until it does, they will want to hear me talk about the basic fairness and the obfuscation that is causing the Liberals to indulge in these tactics. HIV is very important. I studied HIV at medical school, so did some of the members opposite. We can all go home and study HIV tonight if we want. What this committee does should pertain to the peculiar powers that a committee of the Parliament has. So we can talk to stakeholders. We can book, and if Dr. Elfson wants to book a stakeholder meeting in his office, I would be pleased to attend that with him and to hear from the stakeholders that he mentioned in his motion. We can do that here, we can do that there. But that doesn't pertain to any peculiar powers of this committee. What this committee can do peculiarly is produce documents and summon witnesses. That's the incredible, unique space that we're in. It's in some ways it's an awesome power. It's a privilege. It's an honor. It's humbling that we're here at this table with those powers, and I think we should use them for good. I don't think we should. And so if we're asking the question, okay, we don't just have the ability to study things. We have the ability to investigate things at this committee. So what is it that Canadians want to investigate that is related to Health Canada programs, that's related to the minister's mandate? I mean, flip through the Globe and Mail for the last few months. It is Prescribe IT. Money sounds like a dirty word. When we talk about $300 million, that sounds like people have the sense that it's filthy lucre. In some ways it is. I think that's what it ended up being in this case. But money is what people work their whole lives for. And $300 million, so to my calculations, the average Canadian will make $1.5 million in their whole life. At a median income. You can go to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, for your whole life. $1.5 million is one Canadian's life's work. $300 million.
Please come back to the amendment made by Mr. Mazier, your own colleague.
Yeah, coming back. Is 150 Canadians' life's work, which is roughly the size of the Conservative caucus and the Liberal caucus. So what has been blown in Prescribe IT is 150 people's life's work. It's as though the entire Liberal caucus for their entire life went to work all day and were forced to work on this project that accomplished nothing. And that's why I think Canadians, if we put it to them, would you like an investigatory body with peculiar powers to investigate the HIV crisis in Manitoba, or the 150 Canadians' lives' work that were blown? with high-minded rhetoric. I'll remind, I quoted Minister Philpott's, former Minister Philpott's comments on Prescribe IT when she brought it in. It was supposed to make prescription practices in Canada better, and it did not. And frankly, I think that obviously pertains to the HIV crisis. So so I've tried. I've been I think I've been thoughtful and hardworking in trying to show how we can marry these two issues, what we're interested in and what they're interested in, and it's like the sign that says everything I learned in kindergarten. Like, you have to learn to play nicely with others, and just because there's 6 out of 10 kids with a red shirt and 4 kids with a blue shirt in this playroom, I don't think the 6 kids with the red shirt should decide what we're going to play for the next 3 years. No kindergarten class runs like that. No child that has that idea of socialization, that sense of basic fairness, is going to be popular with their playmates. So I guess I'll put that to them again. Like, is what they're doing right now consonant with their sense of basic fairness? Is it consonant with their understanding of what their constituents would consider basic fairness? We can start this HIV study immediately if they would simply indicate in any way that they're interested in studying the thing that us and Canadians from coast to coast and the Globe and Mail are obviously very interested in investigating. So the floor is theirs. I invite them to invite for some ask for floor time from the chair, please.
Thank you. We will go to Mr. Bailey, then Mr. Mantel. Mr. Bailey, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to put a verbal notice of motion, please. Given that the Liberal government Prescribe IT program spent $300 million in Canadian taxpayer money over 10 years, reached fewer than 5% of Canadian prescriptions, and was quietly shut down on February 2026, with doctors still faxing prescriptions exactly as they were when the program launched. B. David Fast served as Executive Vice President of Finance and Chief Financial Officer of Canadian Health Infoway throughout the operation of the Prescribe IT program, and was present at the November 12, 2025 board meeting, at which the decision to wind down Prescribe IT was made, and is therefore among the most senior Infoway officials with direct knowledge of the program's financial management from beginning to end. C. As Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Fast has direct responsibility for the financial controls, internal reporting, compensation frameworks, expenditure approvals, and fiscal oversight of an organization that received $300 million in federal public funds for Prescribe IT, and would have been the senior executive most closely involved in the preparation and approval of financial decisions that this committee has
Point
been
of order,
unable.
Mr. Chair. Can you clarify, is the verbal notice a member can give it?
Yes, he can give the verbal notice, but we cannot have a debate on that one. As soon as he finishes motion, I will ask him to go back to the motion as amended by Mr. Mazier.
Thank you for clarification.
Right? And I'm already past the 5:30 deadline, so I'm looking at the watch as well. So, Mr. Bailey, please go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Bailey.
Point C. As Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Fast has direct responsibility for the financial controls, internal reporting, compensation frameworks, expenditure approvals, and financial oversight of an organization that received $300 million in federal public funds for Prescribe IT, and would have been the senior executive most closely involved in the preparation and approval of financial decisions that his committee has been unable to obtain satisfactory answers on from other witnesses. Point D. Testimony before this committee on May the 5th, 2026 confirmed that prior to joining Canada Health Infoway, David Fast served as president of AGFA Healthcare North America, and that Michael Green, who served as president and CEO of Canada Health Infoway for over a decade, previously served as president and CEO of AGFA Healthcare for the American regions, meaning both men held senior leadership roles at the same private health technology company before coming together, overseeing the Prescribe IT program. Point E, testimony before this committee on May 5, 2026, further confirmed that Michael Green personally recommended David Fast for the interim CFO position at Canada Health Infoway, establishing a direct relationship between the two men that was never disclosed to this committee or to the Canadian public. F. Testimony before this committee on May the 5th, 2026 confirms that the CFO position was never competitively posted. Mr. Fast was brought in on an interim basis, a process that bypassed the competitive hiring standards that apply to senior executive appointments at a federally funded organization, and he remains in that interim role to this day, more than 2 years after his appointment. G. When this committee asked the chair of Canada Health Infoway how much money Canada Health Infoway has paid to AGFA Healthcare since 2017, the witness could not provide any figure, leaving open the question of whether the organization shared a financial relationship with the company, were both its CEO and CFO previously held senior leadership roles, and whether any conflict of interest declarations were made in relationship to those payments. H. When the former CEO of Canada Health Infoway, Michael Green, appeared before this committee on April the 21st, 2026, he refused to disclose his own compensation when directly asked by members, claiming not to have that information at hand, and left the committee without providing a clear account of his financial decisions made during his tenure. The person at Infoway best positioned to provide that account is the Chief Financial Officer. I. $10.2 million in additional expenditures flowed out of Canada Health Infoway after November 2025 wind-down decision, with no complete public account of how that money was authorized, categorized, or spent. As CFO, Mr. Fast would have overseen or approved these expenditures and is in a unique position to account for them. J. Infoway's own disclosures show that $167 million of the $300 million total was consumed by operations and overhead, of which $108 million was personal costs, representing a ratio of approximately 50 in administrative expenditures for every dollar of fee revenue the program ever generated. No witness has yet explained to this committee how financial controls and value for money assessments were applied to those costs year after year, and that explanation must come from the organization's Chief Financial Officer. K. Mr. Fast has not appeared before this committee at any point during the investigation into Prescribe IT. Despite being among the most senior official with direct knowledge of the financial decisions at the center of this investigation, and his absence represents a significant and unacceptable gap in the committee's ability to fulfill its accountability mandate on behalf of Canadians. The committee summons David Fast, Chief Financial Officer of Canada Health Infoway, for 2 hours to testify on the financial mismanagement related to the $300 million Prescribe IT program within 1 week of the adoption of this motion. I want Canadians to hear the motion so it's not confidential. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. I have a speaking list before you, Mr. A. Opson. Only you can speak on a point of
Yes,
order.
point of order, please.
Right.
Yes. Given the length of time that this has been delayed, and given that we are coming very close to time of the meeting. May I ask unanimous consent to accept Mr. Mazier's amendment and then
not a point of
unanimous
order.
consent to accept the
It's
motion?
not a point of order.
This, on the point of
It's not a
order,
point of
you
order.
have the, right, if there is no unanimous consent, then I don't see there is a unanimous consent. So, sorry, Dr. A. Hobson, there is no unanimous consent, and we are way past 5:30, and I'm going to suspend the meeting because there are speakers on the list. Meeting suspended.